Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about Spring MVC, right? Before coming to the Spring MVC tutorial, up to this point, we have discussed a few server-side programming technologies, right? And in our last physical session, we discussed about the MVC. Actually, MVC is a design pattern which is used with the Java language, right? It is a design pattern. Spring MVC is a framework. Actually, it's a framework which is built on MVC architecture, right? We can use MVC design pattern with our web application, right? MVC stands for model, view, and controller. MVC stands for model, view, and controller, right? MVC stands for model, view, and control. M stands for model, view, and C means controller, right? During our last physical session, we discussed with an example about model, view, and controller. I told you in that lecture, uh, in a it could be a web application or a standalone Java application. In model, it is responsible with the data part of our system. Then the controller will responsible with the incoming request and response given from server to the client side. It is handling request and responses, right? In controller section, controller part, sorry, in view part, it is responsible with the display. Or in other words, we are going to display something on the browser in the client side, right? Then view part is mainly responsible with the data representation, right? We can use HTML, JSP, and any other technology as well. Any other technologies related to the data representation, right? Mainly in MVC design pattern, we have three parts. Model, it is responsible with the data. Then control, it is responsible with the get request from client and send the response from a server side to client side. And view section is mainly handling with the data representation to the client, right? In other words, we can say we know in a typical web application, we are processing the user request and create some data and send it back to the client side. Then we are showing this data on a browser interface, right? For proper browser interface, we should have a proper templates, right? Actually, V part is a template. We can store a template in the server side with the reference name, let's say some JSP files, right? Then login.jsp, signup.jsp, and so on, right? Those are some kind of templates. Then we can send a response with this template plus the created data with the relevant request, right? Those are the main thing you have to know about the MVC design pattern, right? Now we are going to discuss MVC, Spring MVC technology or Spring MVC framework. Right. In a typical web application, let's say in server technology, what are the main components? First, we have a client computer, right? These clients are making some requests from a specific web server, right? In the server side, we have a specific file called web.xml. Web.xml. This file, this web.xml file will get this request and Uh, in another section, we have some kind of servlets, right? These servlets are some Java classes, Java project classes with extended to HTTP servlet superclass, all right? Then let's say this is the login servlet, this is sign up servlet, this is profile servlet, and so on, right? We can have any many number of servlets, right? Then this web.xml file will get this request and filter out the request URL. Then based on the request URL, this web.xml file can map our request to the relevant servlets. Let's say your request is for sign up, right? Then your request will be redirected or sent to the sign up servlet from web.xml, right? And we discuss these things. Sometimes this site in these servlets can communicate each other and create a single response and send it back to the client side, right? Then these servlets can communicate each other and creating a response again send it back to another servlet. Then finally these results can be sent back to the client side as a response, right? And at the meantime, we can have some kind of databases as well, related databases as well, also connected with the server, right? Relevant data is available inside this database, right? These databases are also connected with the backend. Then these servlets can communicate with the database and filter out the relevant data and get it or collect it into the relevant servlets and process on this data and create it can make a response, right? This is a typical servlets architecture. Let's say you are going to build up a commercial web application. Then there are so many servlets you have to implement, right? Then you have to extend HTTP servlets superclasses and other relevant things as well, right? Then this web.xml file have to manage all of these servlets. Let's say 100 servlets that are available in your system. Then this web.xml file have to handle all of these things. It is a bit hard, right? Let's say it is a busy time to your server. Web.xml file is not good enough to handle all of these high number of traffic, high number of requests, right? Then we have to have another way to do this one. In other case, in this technology, the view part or the data representation part and the controlling part and the data processing part also all these sections, all these controlling part will be doing inside this one of this servlet, right? That is the another main disadvantage of this servlet architecture. Then we have to have another way, another technology, another framework to handle these types of issues. Then we are come up with the Spring MVC architecture. Let's we are going to discuss about the Spring MVC architecture, right? In Spring MVC architecture, again we have a client at the one end. Another end we have a set of servlets, login, sign up, right? Then let's say some calculations, let's say calculation add function or and so many servlets, right? Then again we have the web.xml file, then clients can make some request. right? In this architecture, this web.xml file is not responsible to match the relevant URL patterns and find out the relevant servlets, right? We have a specific section called front controller. In this MVC architecture, we have a separate one called front controller, right? Then this web.xml file can send all the requests, all the URL patterns that are coming from the client side. The web.xml file send all the uh, request to the front controller. Actually, this front controller is another servlet. We call it as dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet. Right? Then this dispatcher servlet will be responsible to map this request to the relevant uh, servlet, right? But you can think about this. If you think about this one, you can feel another servlet is there. We have to create this one, and this is not easy to implement with compared to the previous one. It is not, right. This dispatcher servlet will be automatically generated by the Spring MVC framework. We don't no need to create this one, right? We no need to create this dispatcher servlet. This MVC Spring MVC framework will automatically generate this dispatcher servlet by itself, right? Only thing we have to do is we have to create a web.xml file and these servlets. Actually, these are not servlets. No longer a servlet. These are some POJO classes. POJO means plain Java objects, right? These are some simple Java classes. And another important thing is now this front controllers cannot identify these are the controllers of our system. These are the controllers. These are the sections that are responsible with the controlling part of your system. Then we are using annotations. We are adding a word or the keyword controller, right? At controller. Those are controllers of our system. Controllers, right? All are controllers. Then inside these controllers, we can add some URL mapping as well using these annotations as well. We can discuss about the request handling annotation using an example, right? Then, however, this front controller can match the upcoming request with the URL pattern and match with the relevant controller and send the request to the controller, right? Then these controllers are connected with the database, right? These controllers can connect with the database, and this database, or let's say this controller required some kind of data inside this database. Then these controllers can communicate with the database and get the relevant data. Finally, this one of this controller will create a response, right? Relevant to this request. These controllers can make a data model plus the view name. Actually, I told you earlier, view inside the view section, those we can save some templates, right? Actually, these controllers can create a response with model and the view name, right? View name, and send it back to the front control. Then we have a separate section called view section. Inside this view section, we can store so many view templates. Let's say this is sign up view, right? This model part, which is including the relevant data, and this view section or view part, it includes the name of the view template. Let's say signup.jsp, right? Signup.jsp. Then this from the view section, we can filter out the relevant JSP file and place this model data inside the relevant places of this view template and create a response and send it back to the front controller. Then this front controller will send the final results to the client side as a response, right? This is the complete architecture of Spring MVC. Then let's say, this is the controller, right? This is the controller. This is the model part actually, right? This is the view, model view, MVC architecture, right? Model view controller. This is the basic structure of model view controller architecture, right? Then we can move to a simple example, right? This is our typical example, uh, adding two numbers, right? There are so many ways to start a String MVC project, right? First way, one way we can start a new MVC project. We can start a dynamic web project, right? You can start a dynamic web project and configure the relevant things. In other way, we can start a Maven project. We can start a Maven project. In this case, I have created a Maven project. There are a few differences of these two methods. When you are creating a dynamic web project, you have to download and place, or you have to download and copy paste relevant jar files inside the library folder. If you create a dynamic web project, you have to download or you have to find relevant jar files and store inside the library folder. But if you create a Maven project, it automatically creating a specific file called pom.xml, right? Inside this pom.xml file, we can place the relevant dependencies of this required dependencies for a Spring MVC project, right? These are the very important dependencies. This one, Spring Web MVC, and this one, Tomcat dependency, because in this case I'm going to run this program inside the Tomcat server. Therefore, we need a dependency called Tomcat Jasper, right? Then Spring Web MVC. This framework need to include from their resources, right? If you creating your MVC project using Maven as a Maven web application, this pom.xml file will automatically created. Then you have to import this relevant packages or relevant dependencies, right? Let's say if I change this one, the version of this one, and save, you can see this new version is automatically downloaded to your library folder, right? You can see this inside the Eclipse, we can automatically downloaded and installed inside the library folder, which is relevant to this Spring MVC project, right? If I change this one again for the previous one, again, the relevant dependencies will be downloaded and store inside the library folder of this project. If you your MVC project using dynamic web as a dynamic web project, you have to manually download these dependencies, relevant dependencies with their jar files. Then you have to place those things inside the library folder, right? Or in other words, other way, website called Spring Initializer. Spring Initializer. Using this website, you can initialize a project, right? You can select these options as you wish. Then you can generate a project. Then this will create a zip file. Then you have to unzip it and place inside your ID, right? Again, you have to give the type of the project, Maven, Gradle, Groovy, or Gradle, Kotlin, right? Then the language, then Spring Boot version, then project model, package name or the domain name, and the project name, and other relevant data, then Java file or WAV file, then Java version. Then you can add some dependencies manually as well, relevant dependencies, right? Spring Web, and other relevant libraries as well, dependencies as well. You can add those things and you can just download or generate your project, right? Then it will automatically creating a zip file. Then you can unzip and place your local file directory, right? In this example, I'm going to use Maven. I'm going to create this web application as a Maven project. Then it will automatically create a pom.xml file, and we can place the relevant dependency name and the artifact ID and the version. Then this will automatically download the relevant jar files and store inside the library folder, right? This is very important, right? Before moving to the next part, we have to do this one very carefully, right? Then in this case, I'm going to get two user input as numbers. Then I'm going to calculate the total and display the total inside on the browser, right? Then first of all, I have to create a welcoming page or the front page, first page for the clients, right? Here I have created a form to get two user inputs as two numbers, right? And a submit button. Then this URL pattern, once I click on submit button, the URL will be changed to /@ right? Then the next thing is web.xml file. As we did in the previous examples, servlet examples, we know we have to map all the requests to the relevant servlets, right? In this case, we only have one servlet, this one, front controller, or we call it as dispatcher servlet. Then in this case, this web.xml file is not responsible with finding out the controllers. It is only responsible with all the coming requests from the client side. This web.xml file will be sent this one to dispatcher servlet, right? All the requests that are coming to the web.xml file will be redirected to the front controller. Only responsible of this one is sending all requests to the dispatcher servlet, right? Therefore, in this case, / means all request, right? URL pattern / means all requests. These are mapped into this one. org.springframework.web.servlet.dispatcher servlet. This dispatcher servlet is automatically generated by the Spring framework, right? Then this all the requests will be mapped onto this dispatcher servlet. And here this name is very important. I will tell you this. I will tell you what is the importance of this name, right, later on. Right. Then we have to create a Pojo class. I named it as add controller, right? Add controller. Name of this class is add controller. This is just only a Pojo class, right? Not import or extends HTTP servlet super classes, right? Just a Pojo class. Then I have a method called add. I have a method called add, and it is getting two parameters, right? Then I told you earlier, this dispatcher servlet cannot identify this class is a controller of our system. Then we have to say this is a controller. Then we can use these annotations. Add side controller, right? Once you add this controller, we have a controller annotation. We have to import this package as well, right? Then what is the purpose of this controller is controller keyword is dispatcher servlet. Once you add this controller at control annotation, dispatcher servlet can identify this class is a controller of our system, right? Then we have to map our request to with the relevant method, right? In this case, once I click on the submit button, I have to pass this data to the relevant place, and I have to add or calculate the summation of these two numbers and create a we have to generate a response, right? Then this purpose of this method is adding two numbers and create a response, right? Then this annotation. The purpose of this annotation is once I change my request URL to /add, right? /add. My request will be mapped into this method. This is the purpose, right? Then with this URL, this data will be coming from front end to back end or client side to server side with this name, right? Name of the first data is N1, name of the second data is N2, right? Something we did in servlets examples as well. We have to take two parameters, HTTP servlet request parameter and HTTP servlet response parameter. With the request parameter, we can extract the relevant data using get parameter method, right? Using the parameter name. Then this will return a string, but in this case, I have to convert this string into an integer number. Then I can use integer.parseInt function, right? Then separately we can extract number 1 and number 2 from this request object. Then I can perform this operation, or I can add this number. Then I have to create a model view, right? This is the model. Actually, this is data part. Then I have to create a model, because in this case I told you earlier, from these controllers we can create model plus the view name, right? Model with the view. Right now we have created the model, we have generated the data, relevant data, but we are not specified this is the relevant or this is the target what we call template, right? Then we first of all we have to create a model view object using model view model view class, right? This is the model view object. Then we have to give the view name, right? Here I have created a template to display the data on the browser, client side browser. This is the template, right? Result is, then we can get the result with the request object, right? This object will automatically created by the Tomcat server. I told you in the JSP session as well, right? This is a JSP file. This request object is automatically generated by the Tomcat server, right? With this request, it is coming with the data as an attribute, right? Then we can filter out the relevant data from this request, right? In this controller, I can specify the name of the view, and I can give a name for this model part as well. For the data part, in this case, I have given a name result, right? You can give any name for this one, right? In this case, I have given a name with the name for this model is result. With all of this data, we can return model view object from this method, right? This method will be return a model view object. Therefore, the return type of this method should be model and view, right? This method will return a model view object. Therefore, the return type of this method should be a model view object, model and view object, right? You can see this with this model view object, we are sending a view or the name of the template as well as the name with a name and the model for the data part, right? Then this data will be returned from this one, and we can catch this data from this relevant JSP file or the view template, right? You can have so many view templates, right? In this case, we are focusing on display.jsp template, right? In this template, we can catch this data with the name and place inside this relevant place, right? Then another advantage of using this MVC architecture, Spring MVC framework is, let's say you're going to make some changes, make some updates to your system. You're only touching with the view part, data representation part. You are changing the color, you are changing the component organization, you are changing the color backgrounds, you are changing the web content, right? Then just only you can change this JSP files, view section files, right? This controller don't know what are the this data representation technologies. You can use HTML or JSP, right? This controller part is don't care about it, right? Actually, the responsible of this controller part is creating a response with data model and the relevant name of the uh, view template, right? Only responsible of this controller class is that one, right? Only thing you have to do is change, if you want to make some changes to a web application, just you have to make some changes in the JSP file. There is nothing happen to the controller part. Then let's say you are going to make some updates to the logical part of your system. Then only section you have to touch is the controller section, right? No need to think about the display part. You have no need to change inside the view section. Only thing is you have to change this controller part, right? The main advantage of this Spring MVC architecture is this one. We have three separate parts. If you want to make some change in a specific section, the only thing you have to do is make the required changes on this specific part. We don't need to think about the change of the other parts as other parts, right? We can keep these other parts as it is. Then we can make the relevant thing inside into the target section, right? It is a main advantage of using Spring MVC architecture, right? Then at the beginning, I told you this name is very important. This name is very important, right? The importance of this name is, in this case, we are not creating the dispatcher servlet. It's automatically generated, right? Then we have to specify this special file called Spring dash servlet.xml. The content of this one is these things are the relevant parts. Just forget these errors, right? This is the these errors are made due to some issues in my Eclipse. Therefore, we can neglect, or we can keep these errors as it is. It is not issue with our program, right? The issue important of this file is we have to give the base package, right? All controllers are available inside com.pdn package. Therefore, we have to specify this com.pdn file, right? This name should be spring-servlet, right? This name, spring is coming from this one, right? In my case, the XML file, name of the XML file is spring servlet.xml. Let's say you are given a name for this one as ABC. Should given a name for this one as ABC, then your XML file name should be abc-servlet.xml, right? In other words, we can say this is the name given for your servlet mapping. In the first section, you have to give the name given for the servlet mapping dash servlet. This servlet keyword is a fixed one, right? Servlet.xml, right? This part is fixed. You can change this name with this name accordingly, right? Right. Okay, these are the main thing you have to know about the Spring MVC architecture, right? Then let's say we are going to run this program. You can run this one on the local browser, sorry, local server. In this case, I'm using Tomcat server. Okay, it's showing this interface. Then we can include two numbers here. Then once I click on submit, you can change the URL is changed, and we can see the result, right? This result is coming from this JSP template, right? Display.jsp template, right? Once I again go through this path, first we have the user interface. Once I click on the submit button, it will submit, or it will change the URL with this URL pattern with this parameter. This request is first go to this web.xml file. This web.xml file is catching all the requests that are coming from client side to server side and map all these requests to this servlet. This servlet is automatically created by the Spring MVC framework, right? Then, this dispatcher servlet can't identify what are the controllers that are available in our system. Then using this XML file, we have to specify, we have to say, this is the package, all the components, all the controllers are available, right? Importance of this file is that one, right? Then in the controller, dispatcher servlets cannot identify those are the controllers of our system. Then we have to give this controller annotation. using request mapping annotation, we can map the request URL with the relevant method, right? Let's say you have another method here. You can say subtract. You can create another method. Again, it will return a model and view object, right? Model and view object. The name of this function is subtract, right? Again, this one will take two parameters, HTTP request parameter and response parameter, right? Then let's say you can implement the relevant functions as well inside. Then you have to give the request mapping annotation as well here. Let's say once you submit this form with the URL button /sub, then you can give the request mapping annotation in this way. Request mapping. The request mapping annotation should be /sub, right? If you are submitting a file with you are submitting data with this URL button, this method will be executed, right? In here you can use request param annotation as well. Here, instead of using HTTP request, HTTP server request and HTTP server response parameters, we can use annotation request param request param annotation, right? Request param annotation. The name of the data would be n1. Yeah, name of this first field is n1. Then we can give a local variable as well. For this one, I can say a. Then for the second one, you can give request param. Then the second data, name of the second data will be n2, and the local parameter is b, right? Then I can remove this part, this code lines, and I can directly access a and b from this parameters, right? You can use request param annotation as well as HTTP request, HTTP response objects as well, right? These are the two ways we can use for this implementation, right? Finally, you can create a model view object, model and view object. Then we can specify the view name as well as we can give a name for the model part. Then inside this model and view object, it has two separate parts. First one is the name of the view template and the model, right? Then this data will be sent to the view section of our project, of our system. Then the relevant the view name JSP file will be executed and place the relevant data inside the template. And finally, we can come up with this type of result, right? If I try this one again, we can get the same result, right? This is the implementation of Spring MVC architecture, right? Spring MVC framework, right? This is a forward step of servlets, right? If I explain this one again, this client section, client can make some requests. All the requests are mapping to the front controller or the dispatcher servlet from this web.xml file. Actually, in this case, we are creating a special file called a name of the servlet mapping tag dash servlet.xml, right? Then this servlet or dispatcher servlet cannot identify directly about these classes, right? These are Fojo classes. Then we have to give the annotations, controller annotation to identify these are the controllers of our system to the front controllers. Then inside this part, we can generate a model and the view. Then it will return back to the front controller as a model and view object. Then this front controller can send this model and view object to the view section and find out the relevant view template and place the relevant data and send it back to the front controller, and again send it back to the data representation or the data with the front design to the client side as a response. This is the story of Spring MVC, right? I hope you have got something about Spring MVC architecture. Then we can discuss further about this topic during our physical sessions. Up to that, you can go through this video and get a better idea about Spring MVC architecture.